There are entire years of your life that you genuinely live through, day after day after day, and yet you can't honestly recall a single complete moment from any of them. In those vanished years, you learn to walk, to talk, and to love the people around you, and somehow almost none of that enormous effort actually stayed with you. This isn't really a story about babies in the abstract. It's about one very specific little stranger, the tiny person who once carried your exact name and somehow grew into you. Go ahead and try, right this second, to clearly recall your very first birthday party, and you'll find that you slammed straight into a thick, soft, immovable wall of pure fog. Scientists have given this strange, blank stretch at the very start of every single human life its own quiet, clinical name: infantile amnesia. And here comes the first twist that surprises almost everyone who hears it. Your memory was not broken or weak back then, not even slightly. In fact, during those early years as a baby, you were learning faster and more furiously than you ever would again at any other point in your whole long life. You soaked up faces, voices, textures, and an entire spoken language seemingly out of thin air, with no lessons and no effort that you could feel. So if you were busy learning absolutely everything around you all at once, then where on earth did all of those rich, vivid memories actually disappear to? The first part of the answer lives deep inside a tiny region of your brain that back then simply had not finished quietly building and wiring itself together yet. That little region is called the hippocampus, and the easiest way to picture it is as your brain's busy, devoted memory librarian, sorting everything you experience. Its entire job is to take each passing experience and file it away neatly and carefully so that some future version of you can walk back in and find it again much later. But inside a tiny baby, this librarian is brand new on the job, still hammering its very first shelves together and learning where anything is even supposed to go. Fresh brain cells are being added so fast and so constantly that the older files keep getting jostled, shoved aside, and quietly overwritten before they ever settle in. Imagine trying to carefully pour a steady stream of water into a clay cup that is still soft, still being shaped, and still spinning around on the potter's wheel. The experience pours right in, just as it should, but the half-finished container simply cannot hold on to it steadily yet, no matter how good the water is. So those early memories genuinely do form, in full and in detail, and then they quietly slip away again, draining out through all the unsealed cracks. But that unfinished internal wiring is not the only crucial thing that was still completely missing during those very earliest, foggiest years. Before you had any real language at all, you had no way whatsoever to tag, name, or describe even to yourself what was happening to you in any given moment. Words, it turns out, are the little labels we quietly stick onto our memories, the handles that let us reach back in later and pull each one cleanly back out. Without any of those labels, your earliest experiences end up like plain, smooth, identical boxes with absolutely nothing at all written on the outside of them. They might genuinely still be sitting in there somewhere, sealed and intact, but you have no handle, no label, and no obvious way left to ever grab hold of them. And there is something even deeper than all of that quietly missing back then, a clear, stable, continuous sense of being a single person called you. A very young baby does not yet truly understand where its own little body ends and where the enormous rest of the world actually begins. Most of our lasting memories are really tiny stories that we tell ourselves, and every good, memorable story needs at least one clear main character holding it together. Without that steady, settled sense of self, there is simply no hero standing in the middle of the scene for the story to wrap itself around and cling to. So the events still happen to you, fully and really, but they never get stitched and woven into the ongoing narrative thread of who you understand yourself to be. And yet, despite all of that quiet forgetting, none of it means that those precious, fleeting early years were somehow wasted or thrown away on you. The deep, foundational skills you patiently built back then, before you could remember anything, are still quietly running and steering your entire life today. You don't remember a single second of the long, frustrating struggle of learning to walk, and yet your legs and your body somehow never once forgot it. This hidden, wordless, almost invisible kind of remembering has its own special name in the lab. It's called procedural memory, the memory of how to do things. And it lives in a completely different room of the brain than your fragile, slippery story memories ever did, which is exactly why it survived when they didn't. Strangely, even some of your deepest, most stubborn fears can turn out to be far, far older than any single memory you could ever consciously point to and name. An early scare, long forgotten, can quietly leave a lingering feeling behind in you, an unease that stays put long after the actual event itself has completely vanished. So you walk around quietly carrying whole pieces of those lost early years inside you, shaping your reactions without ever knowing where any of it first came from. And all of that, taken together, raises one genuinely strange and slightly unsettling question about the rare few early memories you actually think you do still have. Go ahead and gently picture your very earliest memory right now, the single oldest fragment you've still got hanging on in there from the beginning of everything. It probably feels wonderfully vivid and warm, completely real, sharply detailed, and absolutely, undeniably, unmistakably your very own private possession. But that one cherished, treasured memory was very likely never actually something that your own two eyes truly witnessed firsthand in the real world at all. Most of our supposed earliest memories are quietly built up afterward, assembled piece by piece from faded old photographs and the same family stories told again and again. Your brain hears that same little tale repeated so many warm times around the table that it eventually, helpfully, carefully paints the entire scene in for you from scratch. Then it gently hands that freshly finished painting straight back to you, smiling and confidently insists to your face that it is a genuine, lived first-hand memory. So your single most treasured first memory might really, in the end, be nothing more than a beautiful, loving, well-meant little forgery of something that never quite happened. And honestly, no matter how hard you squint, strain, or try, you may simply never be able to tell the cleverly painted copy apart from the real original. Now here is the part that quietly stays with you, the part that lingers long after the video ends, once you actually let yourself stop and truly feel it. The particular person you were for those very first foggy years is someone you will, no matter what you do, simply never once get the chance to actually meet. They lived a whole, tiny, complete little life entirely of their own, full of feeling, and you right now are the only place in the universe they ever truly existed. They patiently handed you everything they had slowly and painfully learned, every skill and every instinct, and then they quietly, gently disappeared forever, asking nothing back. And that, in the end, is exactly why the very beginning of your own story will always, gently and permanently, sit just out of reach behind that soft wall of fog. It's a strange and tender kind of trust when you really think about it, to owe so much of who you are to someone you can never thank. And the truly humbling part is that this very same gentle fog blankets the start of every single life that has ever been lived, with no exceptions at all. Every person you have ever admired or loved is also quietly missing those very same first chapters, carried forward by a little ghost they will never get to meet either. So maybe the right thing to feel isn't loss at all, but a quiet, surprising gratitude for the tiny stranger who did all the hardest learning and then handed it on. There are entire years of your life that you truly lived through, every single day of them, and now in the end, you'll simply have to take their quiet word for it.